You're live.
All right, we are at the Village of Minerva Park Council meeting, August 10th, 2023. It is 7 p.m. We will start with roll call. Councilperson Cox? Present. Councilperson McNamara? Present. Councilperson Camera?
Here.
Councilperson Wolf?
Here.
Council President Ruger?
Here.
And Councilperson Martin?
Hey.
All right, everyone is here. Next, we will do Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next on the agenda is a special presentation. Unfortunately, Chief, we don't have anything wonderful to say about you tonight. So we are going to remove that from the agenda. I mean, I guess we could.
He's a really nice guy.
I know, right?
That's a nice thing to do. There you go. You did
So next we will move to meeting minutes. We have July 27th, council meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Next.
Sorry, abstain.
Oh, and then we have Mark. Abstain. All right, next we have August 3rd, work session minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Next, we will move to our village official reports. Let's start with Chief Matt Dell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You should have all received a copy of my report. The only thing that I'm going to add this time is that the retention bonus that we applied for in 2022, we were one of the departments that were recipient of that. So the 7 officers who are still present when the grant was filed will each get $4,000 retention bonus.
Awesome.
So we're just in the middle of doing the paperwork with the state, so hopefully they'll get that this fall, right before the holidays.
Awesome.
Yay.
Just out of curiosity, was that a state or federal grant?
It was a federal grant, it was through ARPA,
Nice.
Yay.
but it passed through the state.
That's great. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Chief? Next, we will move to our fiscal officer. Our fiscal officer asked if he needed to be here tonight. I didn't think there was anything pressing, so he is excused. Next, we have Mike Flickinger's report. And let's find that. All right. Mike Flickinger's report is extremely long once again, so I'm not going to read this. I know people get tired of hearing me read this. There are a couple high points. The Jordan Road project is moving forward. We currently have Jesse working on the final touches to the easement. I'm going to call it verbiage, but those should be done on Tuesday of next week. The current plan is Wednesday evening from 4 to 7 p.m. The affected residents, which most of them do know who they are already, but it's the ones that were present at the last meeting and that have been notified by me so far. Those residents will need a document notarized. We are going to have a meeting from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. August 16th. Location is still to be determined. I will be communicating with them whether or not it's going to be at the church or whether or not it's going to be at 3700. I will have that finalized some point in time Monday evening. We will have a notary present. If they do not feel comfortable signing at that time, that is fine. They can take the paperwork with them. They can have an attorney review it. They can do whatever they want, just as long as they return it back to us in a timely fashion. And again, we will communicate with all of them. Our engineer will be on site for that particular project to answer any questions as well. So that's probably one of the largest things that we're currently dealing with, but that is something that, again, we are moving forward at this time with that project. The lakes, that is, we have been receiving tech memo after tech memo. I received another one today. You guys will all get that one tomorrow, only because I just got it right before I left. I've not had a chance to forward it to everyone. I'm hopeful that we will just start getting a lot of those tech memos as much as possible on the website. Some of them are extremely large. One of them is extremely large. I don't know if we've been able to put that one on there yet. But each one of those, the hope and the plan is to get those on the website so residents can start reviewing them, look at them, if they have of interest with that. So hopefully in the next couple weeks, we will start talking to, maybe bring him in and kind of go over what the tech memos really say. So that's gonna be something that I'll talk to him about in the next week. When's a good time for him to come in and just have a special meeting for that? Other than that, I'm gonna post this. You guys are more than welcome to read through it. We have cart path bridge restoration. We have CCTV inspections being done. There's a lot of engineering projects currently moving forward, so his report will be online in the packet. And anybody with any questions for our engineer, feel free to reach out to me, and I will make sure that we reach out to him. He is currently working on a couple smaller items as well, a couple storm drains. So I don't know if you guys got that email for that, but so he's been busy. Next, we will move to legal, Mr. Jesse Shamp.
Nothing other than that Jordan Road project, which has been a priority for a long time, so excited to get that done.
You mentioned, I hate to interrupt in the middle.
Oh, you're fine.
You were mentioning the Jordan Road meeting is next Wednesday, you said?
Yes,
Okay. 'Cause there's
during my
also-
planning and zoning.
Okay.
I didn't realize that, but it doesn't matter. This is, I
Oh,
don't have to be there.
this is
Yes.
obviously more important.
What I will do is it doesn't start, I don't think, until 6:30 or whatever, so I will be present at that one and then go to the other one. I'm the only one affected.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Looking at my meetings and was like, hey, that seems weird.
no, that was our date that we could do
Yeah,
with
no, that
getting
makes
a,
perfect
notary and getting Mike
Easements
Flickinger
done.
and easements done, and so I was presented a couple days, and so I will just go from one meeting to another. So, perfect, I'm glad you pointed that out because I hadn't even seen that yet. All right, so next we will, does anybody have any questions for legal? Okay. Next, we will move to our village planner, Mr. Eric Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, we've got, as you know, we've moved the planning, moved the zoning changes, the codified changes to chapter 12 and chapter 14 for public hearing in about a 4-week period. So it got canceled from, should have been next week. We moved it on. There was some questions, we still have some more edits. You'll get some additional edits. Jesse gave me back some edits the other day. We'll get those all compiled, engineering edits, and get those out to you here in a day-ish. So you'll have that before next meeting. So if there's discussion of legislation, we'll go over it then. I would expect there's probably a few more little here and there's before we get to the next work session to have that larger presentation and discussion. And I do have the first revision of the zoning map, initial draft by Jacobs this evening, hand out to you during old business. Building's coming along nicely. We're still on track to substantially wrap up mid-September. And hopefully, so that you got out and saw the amphitheater, I think it looks great. We'll continue on that project through the rest of this year. So I'll take any questions.
Does anybody have anything for Mr. Fisher? All right, zoning officer's report is in there. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to him or myself. And then next, let's move to planning and zoning. Councilperson Wolf.
Yep, planning and zoning met on, hold on, just confirming the date real quick. I don't know, sometime, not too long ago, on a Wednesday. And we met over at the new pavilion. We discussed possible opportunities for improvement to the pavilion space and the playground space and the basketball court space. Next meeting is going to be next Wednesday, the 16th, in conflict with the Jordan Road meeting, but you know what, when you're busy, you're busy. And I believe we said we were meeting, where were we meeting?
I thought we were meeting at there again because
Okay.
we had somebody wanting to talk about the possibility of
Oh, disc golf.
disc golf and
Yep.
maybe walking.
Got it. Yep, so we'll
I
be,
just looked at the meeting notices, it is listed.
there you go. Then it will be at the new pavilion on the 16th at a time.
I thought it was for 6:30 also. Yeah.
I'm pulling it up right now. Hold on. Yes. The online calendar says 6:05. Now, that's not the public notice, but that's what's on.
Okay, we'll get it fixed.
Unless that's my calendar. Hold on. Oh wait, I'm the one who knows. No. Hold on. No, that's
Barb's already made notes, we're gonna check and make
Probably
sure it's
already
good.
changed. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so 6:30. Be there or don't.
might, or I might not, there you go, I'm kidding.
And that's all I got.
I'll go sign my papers, I'll be done by 4 or 5.
That's all I got to say about that.
Alright, does anybody have any questions for planning and zoning? Alright, next we're gonna talk to, Councilperson Camera for MPCA. Maybe,
Yes.
okay.
So MPCA had their meeting last night. Just a few things upcoming. Garage sale, community garage sale is scheduled for September 22nd and 24th as a rain date. I believe my understanding is that you need to register early. They're not gonna take last minute registrations this year, so, if you're planning to be a part of that, please look at the MPCA website, or they have a separate page for events now, and I would go there.
What was the date, I'm sorry?
The 22nd through the 23rd. Those two positions, so if anyone in the community would like to run for one of those positions, please reach out to Carrie. And then they are currently in the process of revising some of their bylaws and hope to have those changes done at their next meeting in September. And I believe that's all.
Perfect. Alright, let's move over to committee reports. Let's start with Councilperson Wolf.
Finance Committee has not met since last meeting, though I think it was very recently that we just passed the tax budget. Our next big pile of work will be working on the operating budget. We will start that work next month.
Alright. Next we have streets. Councilperson Goss.
We haven't had a meeting in a while, so we're gonna do that, but I think after we knock out the Jordan Road stuff, because I think that's kind of our first priority, after we do that, I think we should kind of regroup and talk about like some things like that, so early next month is when we should slate a meeting, but other than that, we're kind of on autopilot, gathering information for the lakes and everything else, working on restriping the streets, so that's good too, and, everything Mike Cookinger said, basically, so a lot of stuff.
And the appropriation that you guys have in front of you tonight is, I've been working with Paul Peterson for the last probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks, in regards to getting us prices to do thermo painting. There's a couple areas that we might not do the thermo, but 90% of the estimate is gonna be thermo. And I did add in your, school zone. It does say school there, but it is faded. But also doing that in thermo. Eric has reached out to the school to see if they are willing to do it. But either way, we have budgeted enough to do that in case we get a no. I did verify, it does say school, but way further back. So it is in fact there. So we didn't think it was there, we thought they covered it up. So they may or may not help us out, but we are trying to get that part done. So that just goes along with the thermo. He did send me an updated invoice, however, he sent me the wrong invoice and it was like $122,000, so I don't think that was mine.
Yes,
No,
yes.
so it went from like 17,000 to 122,000, so I'm just gonna go with he clicked the wrong box.
Do you wanna tell everybody who's watching what thermo means?
So it's actually, no, probably not, because I won't get it right, but it's the paint that'll last 3 to 5 years, and it's actually more reflective. Right now, we're doing it every year, and about 2 weeks after we have it done, it's already started fading.
Yep.
So I can say personally, I'm not impressed with spending $5,000 to $8,000, well, it's not 5 anymore. The first estimate I got was doing just the basic paint, and it was somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000, can't remember. This is supposed to last 3 to 5 years, and it's one less headache that I have to deal with, so, yeah.
It's the fancy, nice, thick stuff they put on railroads, not the stuff they put in
Yeah.
parking lots.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And this is to do all of the stop bars, this is to do, there's a section on Jordan Road that's been requested from a couple residents because of the people going into GFS and Yasmin Market. It is kind of a free-for-all down there, so it's, and the lines are there, but you can't hardly see them anymore, so it's to get those done. And as I mentioned, Jason was, he noticed that the school wasn't very prominent down there either, so getting some of these more safety features put back in. So that's what one of the appropriations, and we're not there yet, but that's what one of those is for.
Is that gonna be 12/20/23, I imagine?
So let's then move to services. Councilperson Martin.
I have wonderful news. our leaves this year.
Well, we have to
Well,
vote
we gotta
on
We
vote
have to vote on it, right?
Well-
Yeah, sorry,
It was 36.8 and you got him to drop it to 34.
correct.
So we did get a little bit of a break. He called and he was negotiating with them. So we did get him to drop it a little bit, which is phenomenal. So, assuming you guys do pass that tonight, we will get them done. I will say, Jesse was working on a couple places that we could also call as well. I did call Westerville today. They do their leaves. And he basically said for 34, yesterday was $34,000 a month. Or, because when he found out it was $34,000, he said, don't ever lose that deal.
Got it.
So, they're good to know,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was that, and so $34,000 sounds like a killer deal, but it's great that we got that information from somebody outside of, we're not used to it, we've used the same companies for the last several years. This is the first time we've talked to somebody, and, yeah.
It gives their opinion. Is
Yeah.
there a way to do a more than 1 year contract? Is this something you wanna discuss at some point?
We, in the leaf bid, we actually did ask for that this year. We do that with our trash bid. I don't, to ask, it does not hurt anything to ask, and maybe that's something that, again, there's no, so all you guys are doing is authorizing me to sign a contract, and it doesn't say multi-year, so this year I wouldn't be able to do it, or I would need to come back to you guys. But at this point in time, it is just gonna be for the 1 year, but yes, that is something that typically, we can ask. There's no reason, and they can increase it, I mean, they can say 34,000, 36,000 next year, and you guys can decide yes or no.
Yeah.
But yes, we did request that in we thought maybe we could actually get more bidders by doing that, and we did not.
Okay, but maybe
So,
that's something.
we tried.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Lock it in.
So yes, so that is wonderful news, that's in front of you guys tonight, as well, so hopefully we can get that moving, because I know there would definitely be, myself included, some disappointed people if I didn't just have to rake into the street. So, I'm just going, bagging up those or not, I only have one little tree, that's the problem, I get on my neighbor's trees, so. Alright, so, does anybody have any questions for Councilperson Martin? Perfect. We will then move to Councilperson Camera for Recreation and Parks. I'm getting better at that.
Yeah, I actually don't have anything new since the last time I reported, so we've not met since then, so.
And our next meeting is,
The.
Next Monday. I think it's next Monday,
The
but
21st, I believe.
yeah, I'm totally wrong. 21st of August. I don't even know what month we're in.
Monday is the 21st, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
so
next
it's
Monday.
Yes, like not next, but the next.
Following,
next.
21st. And is that gonna be, if you don't know,
Here.
it is here.
Yeah.
School. Okay, so we think it's the 21st of August, and it's probably somewhere around 7.
I believe it's always the third one.
And it's posted, I mean, it'll be posted online, it's posted, I just wanted to make sure it was,
Double check.
we're there. We can go back to it. And then next, we will go to safety, Councilperson McNamara.
Madam Mayor, Safety Committee has not had a in-person meeting since, mid-June, early July. However, I am very happy that we have ordinances 11 and 12, 2023 moving at this point, more broadly relating to the radar sign, flock cameras, things of that nature. So the improvements to the village public safety is well on its way for everybody listening at home. That's the majority of what I have at the moment.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Jason or for David? All right. Next, we have legislation. Council President Berger.
All right, also have not had a meeting because I missed that last one when I was out of town with my family. Our next one is August 24th, 6:15. And Jesse, there's something I probably should have talked to you about beforehand. Because I'm gonna say something here over this past week. We did have an email chain with at least 5 council members talking about if we wanted to look at changing salary schedules. It was decided not to have a meeting, not to do anything, but I just wanted to say it at a meeting that once we had 5 people who had hit reply all, I figured that counted as discussion.
That does.
And so I just wanted to bring it up on the record at the meeting that was discussed and it was decided not to do anything with it.
All right.
And that's it. Oh,
There you go.
and then I have the next note, because you have your part with the citizens. Mine part's not for a while.
Next is my report, and honestly, I think I've kind of gone over quite a bit already, so I think I'm good. Next, we have citizen comments. We have a couple, we have several here
Who
tonight.
wants to go first?
I'll take the fifth.
It's not a trial, sir.
Situation where one can.
That's all you can take up the 5 minutes time.
Do you have a
You're already up? Go on.
Should.
I hear from you all the time.
Everybody?
I was talking.
What do I have?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Do you want to?
Your name and address. I'm gonna hit start on my little timer here. You'll see a little orange circle slowly go away for your 5 minutes of time. And feel free to say anything you like, knowing that you're being recorded. I will when she starts.
Go.
Okay, my name is Denise Morrison, 2698 Wildwood Road, and I'm here to discuss the fact that permits are being approved when they're invalid and that nothing is being done. So I have here what makes a binding permit. Oh no, I lost it. Is that there's an offer and acceptance, which would be the application and the approval. Consideration and agreement is a promise to do what is expected. Mutuality or intention is both parties are bound by a mutual duty. Legality cannot contain unlawful promises or considerations or doing something that violates the law. Invalidates the permit. And then capacity and competence. You need to have the legal ability to be able to do one. Now, I'm finding that there are applications that are, that must be complete and accurate for the project to be described or as described, and they're not being done that way. In accordance with the, application, it says, you shall comply with any conditions and regulations. In some instances, approval does not give the permission to change the design or because changing voids the agreement. As for the person approving, you certify the project as it is submitted on the application, which means that when you're doing the final inspection and that the design itself is not the same as what was sent in for the application, it voids the application or the permit. There's been misrepresented facts. When you misrepresent and you don't give pertinent information and you're not disclosing information that is pertinent by either party, it voids the permit. Intent, if you have an intent to take control, become sole owner, when it becomes encroachment, trespass, or even theft of property, it becomes an invalid application or permit. Failure to disclose on either part is an invalid permit. Let's see. By approving a permit, you have given the permission to take the portion of a property if it was not theirs. You've given them that permission and without the other property's owner's consent. I feel that members of council may be in violation of their fiduciary duty to, when it was brought to their attention that there was something wrong about a permit, that they had the duty to check on it, and they failed to do that, as well as if they did do that, they withheld it and didn't do anything about it. That voids a permit. And that's your professional obligation. And members of council have given permission with knowledge that the permitted was encroaching, and they gave permission, told them it was at their risk, and failed to provide the knowledge that the permitted was already on somebody else's property. I would like to request that certain permits be reevaluated and investigated, and something be done about it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Benedetti.
Benedetti, 2937 Berry Lane Court. I'd like to kind of piggyback on what Denise was talking about here tonight, and you know, it's not just her fence that has been improperly permitted. I drive through the village all the time and see the fences. There was one recently put up on East Shore Court. I can't find a permit for it, and it's in violation of the code. The big problem here is that nobody here seems to understand how to interpret our code. I've asked Eric Fisher to explain to everybody where it says you need a permit to replace your driveway. I think you guys have finally figured out that was a rhetorical question from my standpoint, because I know it doesn't exist. So Eric is the person who we rely on to point you guys in the right direction. Yet he's incapable of understanding the most simple concepts about the code, about whether you need a permit for a driveway or a fence. And finally, it's not ambiguous, David. It isn't in the code. And the code enforcement and officer and Eric have both got the fence code so screwed up it's ridiculous. Now, the one thing that I hope, Jason, you'll take a look at if you still have it, because you're the only one I trust that would look into these things, is that there are 3 different surveys for the fence for the fence that went down the middle of a shared driveway. The reason there are 3 of them is because Eric Fisher is the one who sought out the engineering company that provided the surveys representing the neighbor, her neighbor, in this whole fence approval process. Why the village planner is in the middle of finding surveyors who will present a survey that represents what he thinks needs to be presented to the council. So the one question you need to ask, Jason, I want to see all the surveys. And then tell me that after having looked at those surveys, that those fences are the fence that this woman put up, I think it's 2706 Wildwood, both of them encroach on the neighbor's property. One of them, it's so obvious that the survey says that the property line is a straight line. If you look at the fence, it's butt right up against a fence that exists and then jogs in a foot. How in the world you can look at a survey and say that fence is not encroaching on someone's property? That's where she's talking about that. That woman has, granted it's only a few inches, but it should have never been allowed to go on. And it's the village's response. Why do you get a permit in the first place if you're not going to go out there and inspect and make sure it was built the way the plan said? The plan didn't have a jog in it. Take a look at her application for her fence. Take a look at the surveys and help me understand, and Denise, how that permit ever got approved. And when I say approved, we go out after it's all built. You know, she had a legitimate right to build the fence, but it's the village's responsibility to go out there and look at where the post holes are at and make sure that it hasn't encroached on the neighbor's property. You have the evidence that it does, and you force these people to spend thousands of dollars to take it to court when you could rectify this problem if you ever had the nerve to talk about it. You know, and I still got a minute. I'd like to talk about code enforcement and how the sign code on Cleveland Avenue in the strip malls, you know, there was most recently a sign put up where they tore the box sign off and put up an unilluminated sign. Well, I asked to see the permit for this. There is no permit for it. There never was a permit for it. You know, and we're in the process of rewriting the code. One thing that Brian never reported to council is that planning and zoning wanted to continue working on the code because they didn't feel it was finished. There were things that needed to be done. But Eric told planning and zoning that you guys were going to work on it. Now, I'm not sure how much work you've done and looking at the codes, which changes need to be made, but you really need to take a look at fences because there's a couple of different, you know, Stacy, you're signing there. You know, that's why we have an issue, the two of us, because you discount everything I say without ever looking into it. Take a look at the fence code and tell me that why someone cannot build a fence 14 feet back from the front of their house.
Okay, so the only thing I'm gonna say is this has already been through a process and we're not gonna rehash everything up here at this point. So we're moving on. Oh, wait, we have Amy.
Oh,
We have another.
I did have one response, and that was saying that planning and zoning did have a vote, and that vote resulted in, moving that to council.
I don't vote.
And, right, and Mr. Fisher does not have a vote in that scenario.
So clear.
Hi.
Randy?
I feel like I'm messing up a theme, but. No green sucker, that's, okay, wait for my timer.
I usually wait till people say hi.
Oh, that's okay. My name is Rainey Conger, 4769 Black Sycamore Drive, and I just had a question, looking for direction, it's probably written somewhere, but I was wondering about Minerva, France, doesn't have a school zone sign, and I don't know why that is, but I'm sure there's a reason, I just can't find it, so I was hoping for some edification on that front. And that's all I had.
I don't know if Eric wants to answer this, but I do know a lot of things are not 1,000% complete in some of the areas.
I think they felt their school zone was, I mean, they could have a sign.
Sure. They probably, putting myself in their shoes, I bet they thought they were far enough back. But
They have
I think
frontage
they
right
could if
there.
they wanted to.
It's a very short frontage. I mean, traffic, we have an officer there, even traffic controls itself in the morning, ish. But, you know, I have a few, they've changed some significant staff recently at multiple high levels. We're working with them, as she mentioned earlier, for other things. I won't mention that a post sign might be useful, but I think the response may also come back to us and say, hey, village, you own the right of way, you could also put a sign down if you want. That's also a valid response.
And that's something we can talk about in safety as well.
Because
So-
it seems where it doesn't end school zone, right before school zone, so it
Right.
seems like.
We've been in that area quite a bit over the last few days, looking at trees and signs and can we see them, can we not see them? And again, we had talked about the, crosswalk,
Pins.
the paints and stuff. So the paint on the road to make sure it's visible and, so yes, we are aware that there's some attention needed in the area.
And I'll add one more thing, it won't take the other 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Has it been discussed to connect the sidewalk that ends right here at Minerva France that goes to the middle school? Because my child is gonna be riding her bike to school next year, and I swear she won't make people crash into the weekend. Has to cross the street there and then cross the street again, across Minerva Lake, not Minerva Lake, but Farview, just to stay on the sidewalk during the school day, because there's a gap between the middle school and the elementary school sidewalk.
Yeah, there's a long run, and what MI did at the time was put in the sidewalk across the street, not knowing full well what the school would do, and that one side is mostly the neighbor's side, so they didn't want to, they weren't required to put it on that side at the time, so they put it on the side where they had control, so you're right, they could, again, look at that, and safety and council could opt at some point, or at some future project to continue the sidewalk run there.
I mean, it's a very small gap. Big gap. Alright, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody? Okay. Next, we will move to legislation.
Okay, it along. First one, an ordinance adding chapter 10, ordinance 08/2023, there we go. An ordinance adding chapter 1048, stormwater utility, to the codified ordinances of the Village of Minerva Park, creating a fund for proceeds generated pursuant to that chapter, and amending the water and sanitary and storm sewer usage charges and declaring an emergency. This is the third reading of this. We are looking to pass it as an emergency so it can take effect immediately. Mostly what this is doing is switching up some of the money that gets collected for water fees and putting it into storm sewer funds instead of water main funds, because our water mains are all newer and in better shape than our storm sewers are. So you need to put the money in the right place so you can spend it on what needs fixed. That being said, I move passage as an emergency.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Make it ready.
Councilperson McNamara?
Aye.
Council President Berger?
Aye.
Councilperson Kloss? Aye. Councilperson Cameron?
Aye.
Councilperson Martin?
Aye.
And Councilperson Wolf?
Aye.
Okay, on to ordinance 11/2023, an ordinance updating the wage and salary ranges, the number of employees and positions for the Village of Minerva Park, and declaring an emergency. I believe the only change to this is we will have 2 police sergeants instead of 1, so we can have a night sergeant on duty.
Yes, and the reason, Jason asked this question the last time, and it is something that we can look at and figure out a better way to do it. Part of the reason that the lifeguard thing was there and not there is they were all in different salaries, and when they go to do budget, that was the reason that it was like 2 here, 3 here, 2 here, and you can't really tell who's gonna be in that. So we could put, we can figure out a way to do it when we talk about it the next time. We just opted to leave it alone right now, but that was the reason that it was adjusted.
Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't affect us so much now.
Yes.
This is also a third reading, and in order to get the changes made over and people the correct pay rate, I am gonna move that we pass as an emergency.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilperson McNamara.
All right, Councilperson,
Oh, anyone?
anybody?
Nope. So
Councilperson Wolf?
Aye.
Councilperson Martin?
Aye.
Councilperson Cameron?
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara?
Aye.
Council President Kruger?
Aye.
And Councilperson Kloss?
Aye.
All right. On to ordinance 12/2023. An ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for the current expenses of the Village of Minerva Park for the year 2023, second reading. It is a slight increase in expenditures for the police, some of it I imagine to cover the new salary of our new sergeant. This is only a second reading, so I think we're done with that, unless anyone has anything they want to say about it. Okay, moving on. To ordinance 13, whoops, nope, this is the right one, okay. Ordinance 13/2023, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for the current expenses of the Village of Minerva Park for the year 2023. This will be adding $10,000 to our street maintenance and repair for our hot paint. Is that not what it's called? Thermal paint. Really, really close to that. We are looking to pass that tonight, despite it being a first reading, so I'm gonna move to waive the second 2 readings,
Second.
so we can get the thermal paint down.
Second.
Any debate, anyone wanna not do that, or, I mean, we'll wait till votes, but anyone have a thing they wanna pipe up about? Okay.
All right, Council President Berger?
Aye.
Councilperson Cameron?
Aye.
Councilperson Martin?
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf?
Aye.
Councilperson Kloss? Aye. Councilperson McNamara?
Aye.
All right, well, having waived the second and third readings, I move passage as an emergency, so we can get some of that painting done.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any debate? It looks like we're calling roll.
Councilperson McNamara?
Aye.
Councilperson Kloss? Aye. Councilperson Wolf?
Aye.
Councilperson Martin?
Aye.
Councilperson Cameron?
Aye.
And Council President Berger?
Aye. mentioned earlier now, Resolution 2023-26, resolution authorizing the mayor and fiscal officer to enter into contract with Groundmaster Landscaping Services LLC for leaf pickup. The cost not to exceed $34,000. This is our third reading. Is there a reason not to pass it as an emergency? Does it need to be or not need to be?
Procedurally, we tabled this at the last time it was read. So procedurally, we need a motion to take it up,
Motion to
off the
untable.
table.
Motion to re-table?
No, on the table.
Second.
Remove from the table.
Second. And I believe we can just do that on a voice vote.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, it has been untabled. Now I'd like to propose passing it as an emergency,
Second.
which is not on the paper. Do we need to do it that way?
Yeah, we should, we don't have to do it, we now have a motion to pass by emergency on the table in a second, so we could do a motion to amend, to say, declaring passage as an emergency, for the public, necessary for the public health, safety, and welfare of the village, to wit, securing the contract before the leaf season.
And then,
All
yeah,
that.
I'm not.
So you can move it, you can move to amend as
So
you
it's
want
also-
with the,
Right, we have 2 months until the contract
That's right.
starts, so there's no need.
I don't think
Right.
so.
unless you're worried that
Pass
it'll,
an emergency.
no, there isn't.
No. All right, well then let's just vote on it, pass it like normal.
There you go.
I will withdraw my motion to pass as emergency and substitute it with a motion to pass as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any debate?
Councilperson Martin, Council President Bruder,
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf,
Aye.
Councilperson Cost,
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara,
Aye.
Councilperson Cameron.
Aye.
And that is all the legislation fit to read.
All right, do we have any old business? Go for it.
Hang it out real quick.
Oh, visual aids.
While he does that, I do want to point out September 21st from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. is going to be our first responders night.
That's better.
Did you guys all hear that?
September 21st.
September 21st, 5:30 to 7:30.
Don't forget the birthday cake.
Yeah, we did not, yeah. We did not do, we're not doing national, we didn't do national night out because there's too much competition
Okay,
with getting,
so we're gonna do a different celebration,
Yes.
get people out,
yes.
not to fight with everyone else's local night out. Cool.
Okey-dokey. This is just your draft for the zoning map as we're getting it cleaned up. You'll note there's still a few things, comments, he didn't get things done after I got some comments out of the last meeting, but I wrote them in there. Pretty much as we had discussed. So if there are any questions, feel free to let that percolate. Ask them next time we see you, or send me an email. We'll get that further cleaned up and labeled, as we move towards passage.
Do you wanna just talk about, kind of, just for the record, what suburban residential versus planned residential versus legacy?
Well, sure, and I was gonna save that, that's a longer than a 5-minute discussion, but I was gonna save that for the presentation, because that's all done there, but in short, your suburban residential R3, is what the vast majority of the village up into the MI development was put into, in which it did not conform to those particular parameters within the zoning code. And so per P&C's recommendation to council, after they spent a significant amount of time on it, the only portion of the R3 left in which the lots and the houses, the structures there were conforming was along Jordan Road, which is still in the dark blue. The rest of the Legacy Village is being renamed to Minerva Park Legacy Planning District, in which every lot will then be a conforming lot, no longer legally non-conforming. And it will be in a plan district, which gives it a lot more flexibility, and the process is gonna change. We'll outline that at the work session for everyone's application. The plan district, the planned residential district is the plan district as prepared with the MI company to meet the criteria that the village they agreed to at the time that accepted and approved. The only other small residential difference, there's a district called the Urban Residential R12 District, which is where David resides. That district is has our only kind of condos, so it's a little bit higher density, and so it's been to that district. We didn't change that one either. The other ones, from a change standpoint, is simply the introduction of the planned commercial district areas as per council's discussion last time. And that is all I can have. Unless there's other questions.
Preview everything else.
Thank you.
Dave, you have your little fancy spot on the map.
I know, I was thinking about that.
All right, do we have any more old business, and we can move that also into new business at this time? If you didn't hear me say that, September 21st, 5:30 to 7:30 is going to be our first responders night. There's gonna be food trucks, there's going to be other surrounding agencies there. It's basically, I hate to say this, but it's basically our national night out. We just compete so much with the other departments. We're hopeful that we can get some more fire trucks, emergency vehicles, things like that for the kids, because they tend to love them. We are going to have a bouncy house. We are going to have a dunk tank, so that will be pretty entertaining. And Leah is working extremely hard on on putting some things together for this event. It is going to be at Minerva, France.
Oh, here.
Yes, right here.
We will adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Too late.